Welcome to Slow and Steady, the podcast where you get to follow along as we figure out how to build and run a SaaS. I'm Benedikt.
And I'm Brian. Each week we'll give you an honest peek into our lives as we work on our products and keep the lights on by training puppies. Today is April 28th, and I am feeling stuck.
This is episode number 39, and I'm paying back technical debt.
Ooh,
yeah.
We'll get to that for sure. You got a good list of things in the notes this week.
Like you
have a full page of bullet points, and then I have one. We got a dog, which
yay, which is way cooler than anything I did.
Well, it's also taking up twice as much time as all of the things that you did.
Not sure about that.
We have 3 kids. We 12, 10, and 8. We got a golden doodle, which is a mix between a golden retriever and a poodle. On Friday. We're recording this on Tuesday, so we picked him up Friday at 2:00, and he looks like a Build-A-Bear, like cuddly actual teddy bear. He's freaking adorable. He just doesn't really care for sleep, so at least at
Not
night.
yet, at least.
Yeah, exactly. He's the best. He is awesome. I love him so much already. The kids love him. Wife.
That's very cool.
He's awesome. So yeah.
So I'm hearing you didn't sleep well.
Well, I mean, in the week running up to picking him up, there's just like a lot of work to prep to get the house ready for him, squeezing in, client work as I could. So yeah, Friday night I stayed up with him, and he just whined all night long. Felt so bad for him. His first night away from his mom and from his siblings, and like that. This just hurts. I'm a vegetarian, so I already have like a major soft spot for for animal pain. And so for him to be like just whining out of loneliness, oh man, that was tough. But he's getting better. The next night, my daughter, she was like, "Dad, I want to stay up with him. You get sleep. Tell me what to do, and I'll stay up with him." And she totally did. And then let's see. Then the next night, I stayed up with him again, and he did 20 times better. Last night, my wife stayed up with him. It sounded like he got up 3 or 4 times, and so he's getting better. He's getting better. But man, that is the very big and pretty much all encompassing news around the Ray household. That's for sure.
It's definitely a big event, right? The thing I admire in dogs is they get over everything really quick. At least it seems like it. Like they live in today and don't care about what was yesterday or what's tomorrow.
Yeah, that is a good. They are resilient. It's a good thing to bring in from them.
Absolutely.
Feeling the need for some of that these days. Say that. So
how's it working out so far? Everyone on dog walking duty these days?
Well, yes. I mean, so far everybody loves taking him out, playing with him, walking him, and everything. Except for him.
It's so fun, right?
Well, I mean, he'll either like take off running, or he's just like, "Oh, there's a dandelion. I'll just lay down." So it's not so much walking as it is just watching him decide what little patch of interest he's gonna sit down and pay attention to at this moment. He's hilarious.
Are you doing like exercises, doing some training with him? Or?
Yes. The I've mentioned that we put this TV in our kitchen, on the first week of lockdown to have like walking tours going around, and now it has basically become the Zach George YouTube puppy training channel television. There's this channel, this guy Zach George, that the kids have just and he's really good. He's got great stuff. The kids will just be like, "Hey, can we watch a Zach George?" Like, yes. And so yes, we're trying to, watch some stuff there, pick up some tips on, okay, this is how you, discourage biting. This is how you get them accustomed to their leash, et cetera, et
Mm.
cetera. Dude, it's a
Mm.
whole. Do you have pets?
We have 2 fish, but they don't need a lot of
Yeah.
training.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Swim, good boy. Here's some flakes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they're, oh gosh. It's a lot, but
Yeah.
he's cool. He's cool.
I think that's the thing that would worry me about like having a dog. I mean, they're adorable and such, but like I think it's so easy to screw them up, like by I don't know, sending mixed signals or stuff like that, and then they
Yo.
learn a weird pattern, and then they know how to trigger your buttons and stuff like that, and it's very hard to reverse that after it's done.
I I'm just thinking, yeah, try kids. Like the whole thing of what am I teaching them and giving them bad patterns and all that. It's like, oh gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's similar. That's true. But at some point you can at least talk to them.
That is so true. At some point they become truly self-aware and can have conversations. You're right. With the dog, it's just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
man.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I'll keep you posted for sure. Let's see. The other news here is that I heard from Mozilla at the end of last week that was like, yep, you're the team's choice. Basically, the offer letter was making its way through the HR department when a hiring freeze, came down. And so it's not.
This is so painful.
It's pretty painful. It's not an official no because it sounds like they're still working out the details of what class of hiring freeze is this? Is this no new job postings? No, cease all, interview processes that aren't past this place? Or is it anybody who does not currently work for the company rescind their offer, no hires period? So sounds like that's kind of all being worked out inside, internally, but man, it just feels like such a frustrating, just a frustrating thing.
This feels frustrating even to me, and I'm not really involved in it. But like this stuff is like, it's unpredictable. Like I have a friend who, it was even before all the coronavirus stuff back in December. She had an interview, got an offer, signed the contract, and they canceled the contract a week before she was supposed to start.
Oh my word.
So yeah. You can't rely on anything.
Yeah, I mean, it seriously, like, it's funny that when you're saying these things are unpredictable, and like immediately what came into my head was that's why I started looking for a full-time job, was for a bit of predictability and certainty. And it's like there's that part where you said that, and I thought, well, that is why it's actually more predictable and less risky to work for yourself, because you are, you have at least more control in certain areas. Of course, we know that's not true. I mean,
but at least you're probably more aware of like the volatility of things. Like, I mean, this is nothing else than a new gig falling through because last minute the client decides to, I don't know, spend the budget on something else in a way, right?
Well, I think that it feels a little bit heavier than a gig falling through, because this is at least 2, 3, maybe it would be amazing in 5 years, of steady health insurance in the United States. which is no small
that's a big
thing.
one.
We are morons when it comes to that. And yeah, it feels a little bit bigger than that. And I'm kind of working and you know, just, and for what it's worth, like everything else is just completely crickets. Like there are no other leads, despite the fact that I've still been like throwing things out there.
Yeah.
Man, it feels pretty friggin' deflating. So gosh. I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do.
Is your focus still on finding a product manager type of job, or are you open to anything at this point? Well, not anything, but like,
yeah, well, right. And I know what you mean by anything. Like, and I don't think so. I don't think that. Yeah, man, Benedikt.
Either a good product manager type or product related job, or keep consulting on development and stuff like that.
I think so. Yeah. And I mean, I feel so grateful to have this client that I really enjoy working on their product. I like what they're doing. I like the CEO who I like work most directly with. And it feels like, if I am I just gonna try to reset to where I was, you know, in August, September, and October of, okay, how do I figure out how to build something on the side? And man, I just don't. I am truly beginning to. I'm just really starting to doubt how rational of a choice that is at a certain season in life. I really am.
The starting a site
bootstrapping while plenty of examples of it working out. I think that there is a very high correlation between successful bootstrap companies and a certain season of life. And
that would be interesting to. Did they ask that? Like, did they ask that in the State of Independent SaaS survey? That sounds like that would be an interesting data point in there.
Yeah, it would. I mean, there's because it feels like one of the things that is, you know, on the table is, you know, going back to my like previous investor network, like traditional VCs, and like don't have a ton of traction just yet. Have an idea, and I need some time to be able to work on it full time with all my focus. And traditional VCs are the ones that they are the ones that enable that.
Yeah. Do they do that right now?
I mean, not to the degree as before, but they certainly. I mean, I should probably link to it in the show notes. Techstars just put out a big old report about what they're up to even now. I don't know, it's just like one of the many places that my thinking is going right now. Like, okay, Brian, what are your options? Boy, job search, not looking good. Full-time consulting, cool. Like, keep doubling down on this client. Now, how are we going to spin up the thing on the side? Well, shoot, I don't know. It's really hard to find enough time to do that and maintain the other responsibilities that are most important to me. And
also, usually this would be the point where I jump in and, hey, charge more, whatever. But at this point, I think I'd be super careful to change anything in that relationship.
Totally,
that might risk it to go like
that is exactly
right. Bad. So
that is Patrick McKenzie's advice is very good. usually. It is not. Yeah, there is a certain point at which that is bad advice. And it's good advice because usually it's right. It is not right now.
Yeah, I'd be super careful about anything related to that.
Totally. Yeah. No plans. No plans. Yeah. It feels much more like the similar issue that I faced in the before time of okay, like how am I gonna like really just set aside Thursdays and Fridays and work on my thing, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for client work. It's just really hard to balance that when the client needs something on Friday, and I know anyway. And I know that, you know, it's pithy advice to be like, well, I'm not available. Okay, cool. How many times do you do that? And then they peace out. Just feels like, yeah. Anyway, man, that's just a big old vomit of me trying to sort out what do I do?
Yeah,
because I don't know.
It's super tough. Man, I feel bad for you. Like this Mozilla thing, it looked like we talked briefly after recording with Val, and it looked like it will go through and everything works out, and you get an offer the next day.
Yep.
So it's even harder than it looks like this might fall through. I mean, fingers crossed. There's still a slight chance, but
yes, fingers crossed. There's still, you know, there's a percentage chance that it happens. But yeah, it truly was all right. Cool. Let's get an offer letter, and then big ol' iron gate. All good. Resilience. I'll pull some from my dog and and just keep going. What about you, man? We can move on from my drama and
absolutely.
See what you've been up to.
Say, good thing you got a dog. He's probably good at distracting you from any bad thoughts.
Yeah.
The walking teddy bear.
Yes, that's the walking teddy bear. That's good.
Now on Amazon Prime.
Wish I would have thought of that one first. We named him River, which I really like. But if I had thought of walking teddy bear first, I might have pushed for that one.
It's not too late to change it.
It's true. He doesn't answer to his name yet, so we got time.
Wait, there's the episode title.
Yeah, right. All right. Yeah. What this is a good list of bullet points from you, man. What are you up to?
It has been an eventful week, or actually 2 weeks, a little bit. Like it's a little bit of an overlap of the last 2 weeks. I basically spent all of last week, the day after recording with Val, I started diving into database performance optimization because Userlist was like super slow. And when I say super slow, I mean like page load times of 30 seconds and more.
That's relatively slow.
It was horrible. And I mean, I had queries that ran for 10 minutes straight. Like they would try to grab like user data for like just the table on the front page, and they would run for 10 minutes. And by that, Heroku had already killed the request. So it, even when it finished, it didn't deliver any data. So I spent most of last week adding a bunch of counter caches where it makes sense. So because it's Postgres. The thing that's slow is usually counting stuff because it needs to touch every single thing on the disk. So I added counter caching for everything. I removed optimized a bunch of loading so it doesn't run a bunch of queries, but only 1 or 2 by doing eager loading and stuff like that. That helped a bit. And I also found a bunch of stupid stuff where, like in one occasion, I was creating 26,000 active record models in memory because I messed up the pagination. So that one page would first query 26,000 records and then instantiate them and then serve 10.
Yes, right. That strikes me as suboptimal. I mean,
yeah, it's
maybe
there's room for improvement.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so that was basically the highlight of all of this. And I mean, yeah, it was just a week of like going into our monitoring tool, looking at what's running slow, and then looking into how to optimize those queries one by one. And it's basically a big game of whack-a-mole.
Okay. Yeah. What was your go ahead, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, please.
So I was going to ask, like, what tool did you use, or like at a high level? Because I've tried to do this I've needed to do this sort of thing before when I was working on feature audit. Like, okay, here's a set of 8. I do this thing, runs 8 queries, gives me some data back, and it's X number of seconds. How do I kind of line by line or query by query measure and fix? Like, are there tools that are super helpful in saying, hey, you're running this sort of query if you rewrite it like this? How'd you do that?
There are a bunch of gems that do that in development, like basically alerting you ahead of times. Like I think it's called Bullet, the one I'm thinking about, but I'm not using it because most of the times I don't care that much. Like, and that's also the reason why this became a problem now, because I mean, sure, I could have been more careful with all of this when I built the feature initially, but yeah, I have this mentality of do the thing that works for now and then optimize it when necessary, because otherwise I just like spend days and days of optimizing everything. So the way I did it was we have a monitoring tool in production. It's called AppSignal, and they basically send performance measurements for all actions in our controllers, and then rank them by average response time and throughput, and they calculate an impact score based on that. Basically, the slowest action with the most throughput is like has a higher impact than anything else. So I basically went into that tool, looked at the table, sorted. I think most effective for this particular task was sorting it by mean execution time, and then start from the top, pick the slowest one, and then you can drill down and see. It even lists you all the queries it does, like to all the databases, and you get a nice well, it's like a chart, like a Gantt chart with like blocks in there with a certain length, and you can see this is the slowest part in there, and then you can hover it and see the query it's running, and that's usually enough to figure out, okay, this is the part where for example, where I count the number of users in the account and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then I can go back into the code and figure out like how to get rid of that particular query.
Okay. But it's showing you the query that it's running, not necessarily the line of code that you wrote, because like you write some Rails code.
Yeah.
And that's not the query itself. Does it give you suggestions on how to rewrite your line of Rails code? Similar to the way like a CSS lint or a JS lint tool could do, like in your IDE?
No. Unfortunately, it doesn't do that. It doesn't even show you the line that triggered that particular query.
That's up to you to
that you have to infer that from. Usually it's pretty easy, because like you see the query, so you have a rough idea what it's about, and then if you look at what happened before and what happened after, usually you can figure it out pretty fast. And basically spent all the last couple of days doing that, looking in there what's slow, and then trying to make it fast. And ironically, like after spending 3 days on it, like as a last thing on Friday, I disabled 2 metrics that we just track for internal use in our own Userlist account. That's the number of events an account has and the number of messages. And I basically just added hashes in the line where they were calculated and just like commented out, don't care. And I think that fixed more like that. That had the biggest impact on overall performance than anything else I did before. Yeah. But I mean, nice. I'm not complaining. The other parts are definitely in a better shape right now as well. And but yeah, those two lines, removing them, brought back everything,
brought everything
to
back,
a reasonable speed.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Success. Job well done.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I also used the time to refactor some stuff related to the schema loading, because that also touched every single record on the database, like looking at what event names are there and stuff like that. So I created new tables that cache that. Also, funny story about that, came up with a good solution to minimize the reads on the database, but then introduced the problem on the writing side. So reading was super slow, but suddenly writing was was taking a long time. And at some point I got error messages. Yeah, I tried to write that record and it took 10 seconds.
Fun.
So yeah, but that's also fixed, and by now it's in a reasonable state again. But yeah, that was most of my week.
Nice.
Yeah.
What else?
Before that, I made some progress on the new trigger type. If you remember, it was like instead of just relying on events for everything, we will introduce a new trigger where you can specify start this campaign whenever these conditions match, and it's usually like, I don't know, account status is trialing and number of users is 0 or whatever. Yeah. And I thought it's pretty straightforward, and started implementing it and started running tests on my machine, like just manual. And then I tried, hey, what happens when I have a repeating campaign with just one message that sends immediately and has a condition trigger on it? And it turns out it ran into an infinite loop.
An infinite loop? Yeah, man. Hooray.
Suddenly I was sending 100 messages per second.
Yep.
So yeah, that required me to take a step back, and now we have like a limiter in there that campaigns can only run a certain number of times in a certain time frame.
Yep.
And by default, we're thinking about eventually exposing that in the UI, but for now it's just like repeating campaigns can only run once per day. So you can only send those messages once.
Yeah.
And hopefully that will fix the problem. But yeah, that was one of those things I didn't think about before. And while researching this, I once again ended up in Customer IO's knowledge base, and you can tell that they've been around for a long time, because of course they had answers to all those problems.
Yeah.
It's always interesting to see like the new challenges I just discover by accident. Others are facing the same ones, and I had to figure out how to deal with them.
Well, it's the benefit of having competition.
Yeah, true. Yeah, and on the more exciting news side of things, we finally set a launch date for in-app messages.
Oh, hey-o.
Yeah.
What is that
Jane
date?
Jane did a lot of great work on the marketing side of things. She our website is already updated. There's a new dedicated landing page for in-app messages and stuff like that. And the list of open to-dos is getting shorter and shorter, and we decided to launch in-app messages on May 19th. So that's in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I think it's 3 weeks from now. Yeah,
3 weeks. That's huge.
Yeah. Fingers crossed everything works out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it should be a great launch, and some hiccups to resolve after. But
probably,
yeah, but that's
I'm already worried about the performance implications of that particular feature. Maybe I'll take the next week or so to do some polishing on there as well. But I mean, we'll see.
How many customers do you have using it right now? You had mentioned that you had a few rolled into it, right?
I think it's 5 at the moment.
Okay. Yeah.
And at any time we have usually between 100 and 200 end users connected to our WebSocket server right now.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's not that much, but I can already tell that it's putting, like, memory wise, it's putting a load
It's
on the
showing
server.
up. Yeah.
It's showing up. So I'm already a bit worried.
Yeah.
You can already tell
Uh-huh.
the moment when the first customer enabled the feature, you see a nice uptick in
nice
memory
uptick.
usage on the server.
And then when you launch, you can assume like not everybody is going to, oh, hey, new thing, I'm going to take some time. It'll ramp up.
It will probably ramp up gradually, but still, like, I can see that there's a problem ahead.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a little bit worrying, but yeah, we will figure it out. It will be fine. What was interesting during the discussion about the launch and like preparing, we also considered pricing. And we initially set out to, well, as you said, like charge more and stuff. We initially decided to include the new feature just in the growth plan and app. So we would exclude that feature from the smallest plan for a couple of reasons. Just like, well, encourage people to upgrade, even though they might not be above the user limit, because we have a couple of users who try really hard to stay below the cap on their plan. So we were like, yeah, okay, let's encourage them to upgrade. But today Jane had a change of heart and was basically, yeah, I was working on the pricing page. It doesn't feel right. We shouldn't do this. So now we decided, it's very likely that we just roll it out to everyone. And just, it ultimately boils down to feature gating this on the larger plans felt a little bit contra to our values and our philosophy, because the origin story of Userlist was Jane wanted to have a tool that sends in-app messages, but intercom seemed too expensive.
Yeah.
So I felt like, yeah, maybe starting in-app messages at $99 a month maybe is against what we set out to do.
Yeah.
So it looks like we will roll it out for everyone, which then also nicely freed up a week of my time, because the feature gating stuff wasn't implemented. So if we went ahead with limiting it to a certain plan, I would have built. There was the need to build that feature, so that now that's gone.
Yeah. Now you don't have to build it. You're giving more. You're giving more value.
We're giving more value.
Price. Yeah.
And with that discussion, like exactly the more value at a lower price, we also started talking about a free plan, because we realized that expansion revenues, especially in the last month, is the number one thing that drives our growth. We get more upgrades, more revenue, more additional revenue from upgrades than we get from new trials and new conversions.
Yep.
So we're thinking about, like, how can we double down on that aspect of things? And the initial idea was to basically switch to a freemium model and let people sign up for free, start getting into the product, start using it, and then eventually, when they outgrow the, I don't know, 100 user limit on the free plan, then require them to upgrade. And we kind of set out to do that after the in-app messages launch, but at some point, and I think it was on Indie Hackers, we posted one of the latest blog posts there, and then in the comments someone was like, hey, why don't you have a free plan? Like, there's so much competition, you should definitely have a free plan. I was like, no, what, like, what's up? Like, why do you think you're entitled to use our product for free?
Right.
Just because everyone else wants money for their tools, why should we do it for free? So that sparked the idea of just introducing a very cheap $9 a month.
I was gonna, So I was gonna
plan.
ask. Yeah.
Which
That
then
seems
again
like-
also required way less changes to the product, because
Nice.
right now everything is carded up front and a 2-week trial, and then that's it.
And then set the limit. I mean, like just setting certain limits for that plan, already ready to go. Yeah.
Yeah, and then upgrading would happen. I mean, it's still manual. We upgrade everyone manual, but we don't have to do, like, there's no customer interaction required for the upgrades. We just go in there, change them to the new plan when they outgrow their limit, and that's it. And that wouldn't have been the case with a free plan, because with a free plan, like card up front didn't make any sense. So we would have to change that. And then, like, the quick question is, like, what happens when they outgrow their free plan and don't have any payment information on there? Like, do we suspend it? Do we, I don't know, freeze it and then queue up the messages that, it just was, there were a lot of open questions. And but just introducing a very cheap entry-level plan, all those problems just disappeared, and we can, in theory, launch it. Well, we're not going to do it, but in theory, we could launch it tomorrow with very little changes.
Launch the
So,
do you have a sense, the people who do sign up for Userlist for the first time, which service they're coming from, or are they not using a service at all?
Some people are switching, usually from Intercom, because it's too expensive.
Yeah.
And I've heard from people that especially for new companies, the $49 is a little bit high. Like, when you don't have any users and not making any revenue, it's a tough entry
material.
point. And that usually
way more nominal. Yeah.
And what we want to fight with that is basically people setting up, like, a less optimal free product, for example, going with MailChimp or ConvertKit, and like trying to fit their SaaS use case into the tool that's built for something else.
Yeah, right.
And then eventually, of course, we hope they grow, but then they stuck with the other tool and have all the data in there and spend some time integrating it and stuff like that. So our hopes is to make it a no-brainer to sign up for Userlist early on, and then we kind of bet on growing together with them, and just like have the integration set up from the start. And
Did you happen to listen to Josh Pigford with Justin Jackson on Build Your SaaS last week? I thought about y'all when Pigford was complaining about Intercom.
As well.
Yeah, when he was complaining about Intercom's pricing, and it's just like, yeah, man, they have just, which is right for them, they have just continued to walk their prices right on up the ladder, and focus on big companies, enterprise sales, and I'm sure they're raking it in. They are raking it in, but they are exposing a large chunk of their customer base to a robust but more affordable option. Such as Userlist.com.
Did you stop listening to that episode after that, or did you continue listening because it got better?
I kept listening. What else to it?
The thing that was very interesting to hear is that Baremetrics is launching a similar product.
Yeah.
And that was me listening to that for a split second. I was like, shoot. But ultimately, I think it's fine. I mean, it just confirms that we are on the right track, and there's a need for a product like this.
Yep.
So embracing the competition, but for a split second, I was like, crap.
Yeah, that's that was a really. I kind of want to go back and re-listen to it. I think what was so good about that episode is that the idea of people like doing more things for your customers, especially right now, at the same price or relatively close. Like in a downturn, you have to offer more value at the same price to keep people around and keep them happy. And so it seems like that's an adjacent need that Barometrics users have, and so it actually kind of makes a little bit of sense. But over time, that is how you come up with a clunky UI that does nothing great and does everything average. And so it'll be fascinating to see how that plays out.
There's an interesting push and pull between like specialized solutions and kitchen sink. Provide all-in-one super garbage.
Yep.
And I honestly don't know what the correct way to do things is. Like, there's a good argument for both.
Yeah. Well, starting with the focus solution for sure.
Definitely. I mean, it's near impossible to start. I'd say it's impossible to start with a does everything solution. Sure, but at some point everything grows into more of a kitchen sink, I guess.
Well, anyway,
those are the main things we're thinking about these days. And to be honest, we're getting excited. Like nothing, like maybe disclaimer, all of what I said is still in flux. Like this is not a promise that we'll actually launch in-app messages to everyone and that we'll launch a starter plan at $9, but things are looking likely.
Cool. It'll be really interesting to hear, like, what are the, give it a couple of months and then share the outcome of that, and did it result in the sort of activations that you had hoped, and starting to see a lot more brand new users.
Yeah, definitely
expanding up into those additional plans.
I think we still have to be very careful about like really treating this as an experiment and not introducing it and then thinking we have to stick with it forever.
Yeah, right.
Because honestly, I'm a little bit scared about the starter plan. Like it sounds like it could become a support nightmare.
True. That's true.
Like getting a lot of new users who are early on in their journey and probably haven't figured out everything, and maybe have higher expectations, and I'm a little bit worried that like getting inexperienced users in there might be a support burden in terms of they need a lot of hand-holding and have unrealistic expectations and probably want features that they think they need, but they don't really need.
Don't super need. Wouldn't end up using maybe. Yeah. Well, I mean,
we see.
It'd be a good experiment. Sounds like you definitely also just affirmed that you should not introduce a free plan. Because if you're worried about $9 accounts.
Yeah, I mean, that worry is connected to both. Like, and a part of me still wants the $49 plan to be like the cheapest one, because it's just it's a nice entry level in a way.
Yeah,
but I mean, we'll see. Maybe this is a good idea, and maybe it's not. Then we can always remove it.
Yeah. Okie doke. Anything else on your side?
No, that's it. I think I was talking for most of the episode.
No, I think that was pretty well split.
Okay.
All right, man. So good to really good to catch up. And
yeah, absolutely. My fingers are still crossed for that offer letter from Mozilla.
yeah, my fingers are crossed as well, but I'm also gearing myself up to move right along and just keep it going. Slow and steady wins the race.
For sure.
All right. Talk next week.
Bye.